Hey guys, welcome back to Go Speakin'. I'm Phil.
I'm Ashley.
So, it's been a full week since Ghostbusters Afterlife has been released, finally.
Yes, and how many times have you seen it?
5 times, including the New York Comic-Con screening.
Okay.
And you've seen it 3 times?
3, yeah. We have a lot
to talk about. So, overall impressions.
I loved it. I really did. And I feel like after I watched it, of course I loved it. I had a few issues with it, which we'll talk about, like nitpicky things.
Yeah.
But I think the more I watched it, the more those things kind of dissipated.
Yeah,
I didn't think about them as much.
That's how I feel about it too. There were some things like right off the bat that was, why they made that decision, but
unsettling a little bit.
But we might as well just dive into it. Overall, I loved it. Obviously, I watched it 5 times, and really awesome to get lost in that universe again. Just to hear the original guys get together. I know Jason Reitman has compared them to like a band like the Beatles. And for them to get together again, it's good to hear their music again, even new stuff. I thought that was a great comparison, and he hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, and I kind of felt that the whole movie, it felt like it had that family theme, which in a way for a lot of Ghostbuster fans, it's like going to see your family again. Like especially, we'll get into it a little bit more, but especially like the ending. A lot of people, I think, teared up because of the family element, but also, the fans teared up because it's like a family member coming home.
So we've gotten to this point in the video, and we should warn you that we are going to talk spoilers.
Yes.
So spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, it's been a week. We kind of gave everyone a week to watch it and consume it. And I know there's international viewership in our community, and if you haven't seen it yet, please turn off the video. We're going to be talking spoilers. So do it now and obviously come back to us.
So speaking of family, how did you feel about Carrie Coon and how she fit into the Ghostbusters universe, like her actual character?
Yeah, I really enjoyed Callie Spengler, although it still left a lot more questions than answers. I know there's been a big talk in the community of like who's the mother.
Yeah.
So that's been the number one thing.
Like from the trailers, it kind of teased, and I think it just might have been like a teaser because you wanted it to happen probably, and because Egon and Janine had a relationship in the first movie. Well, they didn't really have a relationship. Yeah. But it was more hinted that she was very interested in him.
Yeah.
And so you thought, like maybe, she shows up at the house, like maybe she's the mother, but then you think doesn't really fit into what she's saying.
But the thing about that is when she showed up to the house, she kind of stutters when she introduced herself, like, I'm Janine Melnitz. I was your father's friend. So it still leads me to believe that there was something there.
Well, they were also co-workers. Well, so maybe.
I understand.
I don't know.
But
playing devil's advocate.
Janine did call Callie first.
Yeah.
To let her know. So obviously she was still one of the few original people from the Ghostbusters that were still in contact with Egon after he left abruptly with all the equipment. So yeah, that was interesting, and I'm curious as to what they're going to develop with that. So there was a lot of doors open, which I liked. It's like you want those questions answered, but at the same time, it leads to more opportunity for movies. I think overall, Janine still had affection towards Egon.
Well, considering that she cared enough about him to like make sure, well, she wasn't a money manager because there wasn't money to manage.
Exactly.
But she still cared enough that she was going to, still be in touch with him and still make sure that he doesn't go under, and
yeah,
it seemed like they all still looked out for one another.
Mm-hmm.
Even like Ray, like they still made sure that like his shop didn't go under and things like that. So,
yeah. Well, at least Winston looked out for Ray, but Janine looked out for Egon.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. I am really interested to see where that road takes us. But yeah, overall, I loved Carrie Coon's character, Callie, a lot.
Yeah, but it was very confusing as far as it fitting into the Ghostbusters universe. I know that drove you nuts.
Right.
Like every time, because I actually read a few articles where people were just kind of assuming that, oh, this is what he's been up to after the second movie.
Right.
And, but the little collage that he had in his workroom showed dates that were before the first movie. Like I saw a picture of her, I think it was for her teeth or something like that. Like, oh, this is when she should be getting, more teeth or something. It was like a really quick flash.
Yeah.
So you really had to look. And we really looked.
Yeah.
And it looked like it was 1983.
Right.
So she was like maybe 2 or 3 years old.
And I saw an 87, and that was before Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah.
And like in between Ghostbusters 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So, and in referencing Carrie Coon's date of birth, which was 81, I'm wondering if Egon was involved with a divorce and, the child was in that relationship.
Yeah, it makes you question Egon's background.
Right.
Like it's like this mystery child that you didn't know about. And it, if you look at the timeline, which, in this movie, they really place a lot of emphasis on timelines,
Mm-hmm.
With the years and everything. So you're just kind of wondering like what Egon was up to and when she fits into the whole universe. And it's funny because I was thinking about it, and it is nitpicky because it doesn't really take away from the story to know,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, if you're a fan, it matters.
Right.
Like if you're a fan, you really want to know,
Yeah.
How does that fit into the timeline of these characters that I followed for all these years?
Yeah, we had 30 years to think
Yeah.
about all this stuff, and
Yeah.
rewatching the same 2 movies. So to throw in a new character like this, Callie, it's both interesting and mysterious. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in seeing what the Callie character is going to be like down the road, and I hope they do reveal more about like what happened with her birth and the relationships that Egon had before. And I know it adds a new element to the character of Egon.
It also adds a new element because you think, well, he wasn't the dirt farmer. He didn't run away at the time she was born.
Right.
Like this all happened when we were watching
both
Ghostbusters.
movies.
when everything in Manhattan happened. So you're wondering like, oh, like is that like did he leave to
start a
go
business
do all that?
or
Yeah.
just go to Columbia University?
Yeah, it makes you wonder.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. If Jason Reitman helms the movies again, because Egon's his favorite character, so I know that he has a lot of heart and passion for the character of Egon himself. So I hope this has been thought out, just like with Breaking Bad, where the story arc of everything, and before you write the consecutive episodes, or in this case, movies.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see, and yeah, I'm really interested in the movies that are going to be coming up.
Yeah,
and we can talk more about it.
Yeah.
See, like this is the thing. I've been waiting 32 years to talk about a new Ghostbusters movie. And it's fine. Like, we have fan theories and everything like that. And, they might be crazy or whatnot, but I'm just happy that we're able to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool. And I'm sure that Sony and Jason want this because it drives interest in the franchise again. So I'm really excited to see where all this takes us.
So speaking of Ghostbusters 2 and the Ghostbusters universe, did you think that Ghostbusters 2 really fit in to this new movie?
Well, Jason Reitman has said it's 100% canon.
Yeah, I saw that too, but some of the reasoning was things that I didn't even really catch. I mean, besides like Ray's occult shop, right? But like there was like a toaster, he said, like a nod to that.
The toaster is in the kitchen, but we never see it. I understand. I know some people wanted to see like the slime blowers or something like that, but what Ray said in Ray's occult, Egon just grabbed the proton packs, traps, and everything else except for the slime blowers. So after watching it a few times, that caught on to me, and I accept that. But there's no reference to the Statue of Liberty walk.
Yeah, that was the one that I was telling you about. And they share the YouTube videos that are like, hey, it was like The Walking Dead, and we remember this moment. But the Statue of Liberty walking through New York is like a huge memory.
Right.
I don't know why they didn't talk about this. And the river of slime, like maybe they didn't see that.
Yeah.
But you can't really miss the statue. I mean, there's got to be footage of that if it was.
Yeah, if it were like if it were like in one of the YouTube videos that were like on the side screen of her watching the commercial.
Yeah, like a thumbnail. Yeah. That would have been cute.
Yeah, or
nod to it.
Or when podcast mentions he even battled a 100-foot marshmallow man, he could have just easily thrown in, oh, and by the way, they made the Statue of Liberty walk. Yeah. So those are little things. Again, that's nitpick.
It's nitpicking, but it's also kind of big. Like honestly, when I watched the movie, especially the first time, I watched the movie and I really did think like, oh, okay. Like, so this is if Ghostbusters 2 didn't happen, then is that what we're doing here? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I really didn't think that Ghostbusters 2 happened. And when Jason Reitman said that, I was actually kind of surprised. I mean, it makes me happy because it pulls in, both of the movies. But at the same time, I was like, man, they really didn't include
a whole lot. If we're going to really nitpick, the license plate on Ecto-1 shouldn't be the one from 84. It should be the one from 89 where it has the Statue of Liberty on it. So if we're going to really nitpick on a Ghostbusters 2 canon thing, that was kind of odd to me. A lot of time to think about this. The slime blowers and Ecto-1A and Slimer could all still be in New York while everything else was in Oklahoma.
Well, and also, they don't want to regurgitate everything from the movies. Like, you don't want to see everything that was there. Like, how much fan service can you do until you're just basically copying the original movie? Yeah, exactly. Like, you know what I mean? So I was glad that they introduced new stuff. Yeah. Because also, there's younger people that want to get into Ghostbusters. They want to buy Ghostbusters stuff. And, I mean, that's what it was originally, some of the merchandise was geared towards. So it makes sense that they would want, like, a younger audience.
So it's good to know that Ghostbusters 2 is 100% canon. And another thing, the video game is not canon. So Ghostbusters 2 is canon. The video game is not canon. I know a lot of fans really want it to be canon, but the video game is not canon. And Dan Aykroyd has said for a long time that it was essentially the Ghostbusters 3 movie that was well before, obviously, this movie. So now we can officially say the video game is not canon. Going back to the Callie character a little bit, what did you think of the relationship between her and Mr. Gruberson? Gary Gruberson.
Gary Gruberson? I loved it.
Yeah.
I did. I loved how he was the unlikely nerd and she was not at all. and it's funny that she's, the daughter of Egon Spengler, and you kind of hoped that maybe she would have a little bit of a science background or nerdiness, but that obviously was passed down to the granddaughter, which I loved. Like, I loved their interactions too.
Yeah.
Like the mother-daughter and, hey, like, don't be yourself.
That was
little,
cute. That was really
interaction. Cute. But I also was really surprised, like, going back to Gary Gruberson, I was also really surprised that I thought that Paul Rudd would be the one that carried the movie comically, but really a lot of the characters were funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt him and Podcast had one of the funnier lines, but Phoebe also had really good lines too.
Yeah, she had that really dry sense of humor that I loved about Egon, and I feel like that translated well. Like, I felt that there were so many things that could have gone wrong with playing that character, but I thought McKenna Grace, like, nailed it. Like, I thought that the delivery of, her jokes and her awkwardness, but also her, being brilliantly smart, like a child prodigy, really portrayed well. And I think that that's all McKenna Grace.
Yeah, she was fantastic.
I mean, I think she's my favorite Ghostbuster now.
Yeah. I love that McKenna Grace was a fan of Ghostbusters even before signing on to this role. So I thought that was really cool. And I am really looking forward to how she's going to carry this franchise.
Yeah.
Because I think she's going to be a great ambassador and just great character to follow along the years. And I'm glad that we're following her from such a young age, because when she gets to an adult, it's there can be a lot of Ghostbuster movies through that character alone. I
loved how the movie was very geek centric.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of felt like every time the quote unquote geeky characters were on the screen, I was excited. I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be a good time.
Geeky characters as in Gruberson, Podcast, and Phoebe.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. I knew that it was going to be a great scene. I knew that it was going to be, all of they were going to get into stuff. They were going to, like, actually reveal things about, what Egon really had, and try to figure out, what does what. And that was fun. On the other hand, I kind of felt like Lucky and, is it Trevor?
Yeah, Trevor.
They weren't as memorable to me. Like, I kind of struggled to even remember his name. And it's weird because I did love Finn Wolfhard. Like, I loved him in Stranger Things. But I didn't really like the relationship as much. Like, I know what they were trying to do, but at the same time, like, I just wasn't feeling it for this movie. Like, I kind of wish they'd skip over it.
I found myself kind of editing out their scenes in my mind. Because, for example, it goes from the Phoebe and Gruberson scene where Gruberson is explaining the seismic activities that's going on in town, and then it goes to Spinner's, where Trevor is in the meat locker doing inventory, and then it goes to Podcast and Phoebe walking on the streets, and it just didn't fit right to me. It didn't add anything other than the buildup of the relationship, which obviously I really didn't care for. I cared more about the Gruberson and Callie relationship more so than the Trevor and Lucky one.
Yeah, I didn't really feel that their characters were really that rounded.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just because I didn't really care too much about their relationship, and I didn't really think that it moved the plot that much. I could be wrong. Like, definitely, like, leave a comment if you think differently. But I felt like the only two parts where he was really important was driving the car,
getting it fixed up again.
Fixed up, yeah, because it showed early on. It kind of did some foreshadowing that he could fix cars. And then when they went to the mine shaft,
Yeah.
Or mine shaft, right?
Well, even then, the only reason why they were at the mine shaft in that scene was for him to see who I think it was some terror dog coming out of the smoke saying Gozer.
Yeah.
And that was basically the only reason why he was there, just so when they finished busting Muncher and they're at the mountain, he was like, I was here last night.
Yeah.
So
and then it transitions to the prison scene or the jail scene, and he does confirm that it was Gozer, but I kind of felt like they all already came to that conclusion from the book. So yeah,
I get you. And it's sad. I really want them to round out those characters because I am interested in Lucky, because she seems like a very strong-willed character, and I'm really digging that.
Yeah.
And Celeste O'Conner is a great actress too.
Yeah. I thought so too, but again, it might just also be biased for me that I don't usually like it when there's a lot of romance that muddles stories. Like if it's like really injected into a story that I'm already liking. And I felt like Gary Gruberson and Callie, like their relationship was already enough for me, and their sense of humor, I really liked, like the tension and their sense of humor, that I just really would rather focus on theirs and focus on the actual story.
And I felt Paul Rudd kind of handled it kind of like a Wakeman kind of character in a way, the way he had this dry sense of humor.
Yeah.
And just that relationship between them was a lot stronger, and I felt like it could have been a lot more impactful at the end when he came out of the terror dog shell. That if Callie went to him to break him out, and I felt like that would have been a lot more impactful, just like how Venkman got Dana out of the shell in the first movie. But I love Paul Rudd. He obviously he stole the scenes that he was in. And you could tell who the comedic veteran was in this movie. Yeah. Like, right off the bat, you could tell that Jason allowed Paul to just kind of be a little loose in the scenes that he was in. Yeah. And he did a fantastic job. Just, like, throwing in stuff like, ooh, Jamocha. That kind of just like... He's
so awesome that you were already laughing before he got to the freezer. Yeah, he had like a swagger throughout Walmart that you're like, this guy is
And his freaking keys like in his like...
jangling.
Yeah. It's just like so freaking funny.
Yeah, he's just that goofy guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I hope he's in more of the movies down the road. Although it was kind of strange to me that he was a seismologist and he recognized the language that was on that map and knew what a Aztec
death whistle. Yeah.
But
I have no idea.
Oh well, he's a person of the world.
I mean, he obviously is into that kind of stuff. I mean, he
knew about the Ghostbusters, so yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously like into that kind of stuff because, you know, him talking to Phoebe, how excited he was getting about everything. But you're right, like it is kind of strange that he knows everything, but then it's also kind of strange that Phoebe knows everything, but I guess that's just, you know,
true.
Geek-centric.
You just got to accept that's who the character is. But I wish they kind of dived into that map a little bit more.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that I wish that they would have explored more and then just kind of cut the teen romance. Yeah. Like, I don't really need to see this guy's, like, first day. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, at work. I mean, it was cute, but at the same time, I'm like...
Again, I understand the character build-up, but we know the character right off the bat. He is a gearhead, just like a Dan Aykroyd, and fixed up the car. And that's basically all I want to know about the character. Mm-hmm. Let's jump to the Phoebe and Ray scene. Yeah. So when I first watched that scene at the Comic-Con, it was a real clutch my pearls moment when he said, Egon Spengler can rot in hell. Yeah. I was like, huh! Like, I made an audible, like, oh my God, what? You gasped. Yeah. I was like, no, they're friends. What? Why?
It's funny because when I first saw it, I thought the same thing. Like, I didn't clutch my pearls, but I really thought, like, that doesn't sound like Ray.
Right.
But I mean, I know, like, the more I saw it, the more I rewatched it, the more I was like, well, a lot has happened in that period of time. People aren't all the same, like, after all that time has passed. But at the same time, especially when I first saw it, I thought, that doesn't sound like Ray. Like, Ray would be excited and he would buy into this.
Yeah, he would be like, oh, Egon, like, is onto something.
Yeah.
Let me tag along on this adventure.
Yeah, he didn't usually play the role of a skeptic.
Right.
So it was weird for me to hear that, and it was weird for me to hear him, you know, talk so badly about Egon.
Right. But you got to think, so it sounded like Egon in the time period where the business has slowed down, it sounded like Egon was telling the customers, well, your ghost problems don't really matter because the end of the world is coming anyway, and was freaking the customers out. And it kind of freaked out Ray because, you know, when you have this belief of like the end times, you become that like person on the corner of the street, like with the bullhorn and everything like that. I don't know if Egon was really like that, but it might have freaked out Ray in that regard.
But I guess the weird thing for me, though, and I can totally get on board with that, but then I also thought, like, Egon was really the type to be the skeptic.
Mm-hmm.
So he would be the guy that would have all of the evidence to back up everything, like a true scientist. So then he would share it with them and be like, hey, you know, here's this map that I found, and here's this temple, and
and
I mean they've already seen Gozer, like they're not gonna they know the background.
We don't even know that if he had the map at that time period.
There's all those things.
And I noticed that when Phoebe and Podcast were at the wall of the temple, Podcast said nobody knows how it got here or who made it. It just kind of showed up one day. So it might have not have been there beforehand. Although why were the sheets covering it in tatters? So there was some like questions in that regard too.
Well, it was there when the mining company was there though, right? Because guys kept falling in.
You're right.
I guess.
You're right.
Unless I missed something.
But the inside of it, but you don't know if that wall carving was there or not. Because like Podcast said, it just kind of showed up one day.
Yeah. You don't know when he set up the
proton
neutrino
packs.
wands.
Yeah. It might have been a more recent thing because I don't know. Yeah. But again, there was a lot of questions in that area. But again, going back to Ray's reaction towards Egon, you know, when your partner takes all the equipment, your livelihood, how you made money, and the Ecto-1, and just like randomly going, you're going to probably be pissed off at him. And when he tried to contact Ray 10 years later, I guess Ray just didn't want anything to do with him because he was pissed off at him.
Yeah, and I was also thinking, like we had said, you know, a lot of time had passed, but also there was kind of only one phone call to Ray. So that's all that you got as far as the background and what had happened, you know, between them.
Yeah, there was a lot to unpack in that 5-minute scene.
Yeah, so it's like you can really just go off of that emotion of like hearing him say those things, but then at the same time you think, I mean, he doesn't really tell you everything that happened.
Right.
You don't know the whole story, which I kind of wish I knew that too. That's another mystery that you wish that you knew, like what happened between that time period, you know, what really soured the relationship. And also when they hung up the phone, what happened after that? When he gets cut off, the last thing that she says is, oh, I'm Egon's granddaughter.
Yeah.
And after that, you don't see them at all until the very end. And part of me, even after rewatches, I still think, how did he get them all together? Like, what happened?
Right.
Like, I just wanted a quick phone call, the same thing.
Yeah, I really wanted a let's get the band back together kind of thing. Obviously, a lot of fans wanted to see the originals more in the movie. I'm kind of in that camp, but I understand why they did it. You're trying to get to know these new characters.
Yeah.
And they carried the film, the new characters did. And when the originals show up, and it's like, oh, it's good to hear their voices again. It's good to hear their banter, the cadence of the characters' voices.
Yeah.
So when you hear that, you want more of it. And so going back to your point, you wish they were more involved in the third act as far as, you know, Ray calling them up and saying, Egon's dead. And them, like, trying to cope with that.
Yeah, I guess the fan service of actually having them reconnect and transitioning to them getting together and, like, maybe suiting up, or I don't know. Like, there's a lot of things in my head that I thought, oh, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, when I was first watching it, I was like, oh, okay, like, now he's going to call the guys up and they're all going to, like, do some suiting up, and
or
it's going to be hilarious, but also, like, really heartwarming. But it's okay they didn't do that. But at the same time, like, I wanted it. I did. I really wanted it.
You wanted it.
I did. I really did. I thought that they were actually going to do that. And then at the very end, you know, it was kind of like, when are they going to show up?
Yeah.
And then you hear Aykroyd and you're like, oh, yes. But then you're also like, oh, like,
I want them more.
yeah, exactly.
But
what you said. Which, by the way, I love the Stay Puff, the Mini Puff reactions when they show up. I laugh every time.
By the way, the Mini Puffs were cute.
Oh my gosh, I loved those.
Yeah.
They are little sadistic a-holes, and I love them.
Yeah.
I love their merchandise. They're so cute.
Yeah. So they were a good addition to the franchise. Terror Dogs look great.
Yeah.
And Gozer looked amazing, played by Olivia Wilde. Yeah.
Yeah, she looked great.
Yeah, Olivia Wilde looked amazing.
I actually wanted more Gozer.
Yes. And that's another, like, factor in the third act that I wish Gozer was a little bit more take over the world-ish kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, start from Oklahoma and spreading her evil across the U.S.
Yeah.
And heck, maybe even New York. But I understand they were trying to contain that character to one spot so it doesn't blow the whole budget, and try to accomplish what Egon originally set out for.
So that they can actually use the trap.
But darn it, I really wanted more. I really wanted to see her. Yeah, wanted to see her power more of what she was capable of doing. And I also wanted to see Ivo Shandor more. And it was kind of shocking that they just killed him off, like, in 2 seconds.
I mean, and I disagree. Like, I didn't really feel that. I thought it was kind of a throwaway for them to have Ivo Shandor there.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't really feel the need to see him. When he woke up, I was like, oh, okay, like, you know, what's this guy gonna do? And then it was satisfying when she ripped him apart, because I'm like, okay, like,
stuff's gonna go down.
This is just gonna get real.
Yeah.
Like, she is gonna, like, destroy maybe, like, the Midwest or something like that.
Yeah.
But also, I always wonder, this is kind of a little bit off topic, but at the same time, I always wonder why Gozer just chills out when she comes. Like,
like, why didn't she just, like...
Like, is she, like, tired from, like, being dormant for all that time?
She's just awesome. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, she's just like, I don't need to work right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to chill with my dogs. And then we'll destroy Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what her issue is that she waits too long.
Yeah. And
she has conversations with people trying to destroy her and asking them questions.
And listening to jokes.
Yeah. That was an awesome scene. I loved her, and I thought that she looked, back to this, the look of them, the appearance.
Yes.
She was aesthetically pleasing.
Love the effects that...
I loved how they added the effects, like you said. We saw it in an IMAX twice.
By the way,
and she looked amazing in that.
Yeah, if you're going to see this movie at least once in IMAX.
Yeah.
The sound quality alone is just incredible.
Yeah.
And again, we don't know like if she'll come back because she's in a trap, so she could easily get out of the traps or get out of the containment unit. It's just like there's still an offering there,
right?
For Gozer to come back. And speaking of which, in her temple, we spotted the dates or the years, I should say, like after 2021, it goes from 2134.
Mm-hmm.
That year kind of showed up in a split second, and we were both kind of like screen eyeing like what date it was.
Yeah, I thought it was actually going to be a more recent date so that it could hint to like the next movie.
Yeah.
But I was like, wow, like that's like really far into the future.
Like initially, we thought it was like 2034, which is the 50th anniversary of Ghostbusters, but no, it's 2134. So we got a long ways away. I mean, we've waited 30 years for this third movie anyway, so why not 100 plus years?
Yeah, right. How did you feel about, at the end, seeing Egon?
Cried like a baby. Like, they handled it really well. I'm glad that they consulted the Harold Ramis's family first. Yeah. Like, early on in the script process, they were probably the second people to read it, the script. And I'm glad that the family gave them their blessing because Harold Ramis's daughter, Violet, she went on to saying in an article, it's like, it wasn't her father on screen, it was the character Egon, because Harold Ramis obviously got heavier over the years. And so I'm glad they went to a more skinnier version of Egon. And I like the beard. That was really cool. Yeah. And the effect was amazing. I'm glad he didn't speak. He just was, all he needed to do was just give you a glance and a smile and just like fix Phoebe's hair and the hug with Callie.
Yeah. Well, holding the Neutrino wand with her was that moment where you were like, oh my gosh, all the feels.
Yeah, it was just amazing. They knocked it out of the park. Yeah. And that shot with all four of the original Ghostbusters. Yeah. Battling Gozer for the last time, all four of them together.
I loved how they made it comical too, with them looking over at him.
Yeah, like, Winston, what? Ernie Hudson, thank you so much. You were great. Yeah. And by the way, did you catch the Mowgli?
I knew you were going to ask me that. No. Did you?
Mm-hmm. I've seen it all the time. That was like the first thing I saw when I saw when
the first time you watched it?
Yeah, when Egon disappears and goes into the sky, you can see a little silhouette of Mowgli, the Ghostbuster logo.
I'll have to see it a fourth time.
Yeah, I'll be there with you.
I might have been, kind of teary-eyed.
And in that same vein, it was neat that Callie finally said her last name.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
To Venkman.
Yeah.
So
I didn't realize that. Yeah, she introduced herself as Spengler.
She always avoided saying Spengler throughout the entire movie, and I thought it was awesome that when Peter Venkman introduced himself, which is another thing, Peter didn't know who Callie was since he said, "Oh, who's this one?" Yeah, let's talk about the cutscenes a little bit. Okay. I loved, obviously, Peter and Dana. That was a fun throwback, and good to see Sigourney again in that role. I loved that Ernie Hudson, Winston is now this Tony Stark kind of character now with, boatload of money. He's done well for himself. He's taken I've gotten the tools, I've gotten the talent mentality to really make something out of himself. and that he still holds ghostbusting deep into his heart and wants it to flourish again.
Yeah.
And to clean up the Ecto-1. And it was neat to see the containment unit again.
Yeah.
So,
it was awesome to see him having pride in being a Ghostbuster. Like, that was kind of like, you know, a gig for him. Like, he's like, okay, you know, I just want to make a paycheck.
Yeah.
And now he's like this was something that was a big part of my life. And I want to make sure that I, you know, secure that. Side note on that, I think that, you know, Winston is finally getting his due.
Oh, yeah.
With that, I thought, like, oh, that's awesome that he's hopefully going to kind of like carry the torch, and we're going to see more of Winston, and he's going to maybe be the one that, you know, runs the new Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
location.
him and Ray will get together and be the mentors of the new team.
Yeah.
Kind of like Extreme Ghostbusters with Egon in that cartoon series. And I hope Janine's on that adventure as well.
I felt like they hinted at that when they had her in the final scene as well.
Yeah.
Also, if there's another movie, I hope that Rick Moranis comes back.
Yeah. At least for a couple scenes as their tax manager and trying to get the finances all together.
We were hoping that he would have played a part like that. Like, oh, he might be in the end scene and maybe he is the one that's helping Winston with his money.
Yeah.
Like,
I know he's like a tax guy, but he could be like a financial advisor down the road.
Fill-in lawyer.
Yeah. Overall, the movie was amazing. Had a fun time at the movies again. This is our first movie back in theaters since the pandemic started, and I couldn't have had a better time. I am looking forward to more movies and hopefully TV shows, maybe a cartoon series again.
Yeah.
So let's see where the door opens and where it leads to.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for watching. That was basically a summary of some of the things that we thought about the new movie and kind of our little nitpicking commentary. Now, if you had any differences of opinion, or if you felt the same way that we did, or anything about the new movie, definitely let us know in the comments below. And make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And if there's anything else, you know, definitely just send us a message.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, guys, and we'll catch you on the flip side, and keep on busting.
Bye.